Yo, Munir.
Creativity.
The happiest guys on the internet.
What's going on, brother?
Yo, Munir. Rob, welcome to Yo Munir, a show celebrating creativity. And on today's show, we're going to cover creative influences, origin stories, the Super Bowl halftime show, what we find with Mindset and Carol Dweck, and our top 3 songs of this week. I'm Munir Haddad, the co-founder and CEO of Kiosk, an advertising agency, and I love creativity and support stakeholder capitalism. Rob, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Munir. Yo, Munir. I'm Rob Haddad, a former producer and director who spent his career in sports, media, and technology. And I love talking about creativity.
All right. Hi! We're live.
Hello.
We're live.
I'm still doing research. I'm talking to my producer. I got my producer in my ear.
I know it happens. And hopefully this time we'll have a recording session without interruption. We had an outage, a technical outage.
Nobody would know if you hadn't said anything.
That's true. It's true. It just so happened, though, that it was perfectly timed.
Well, maybe it'll show up in the inbox tomorrow.
We'll have extra episode.
That's kind of how I lived my academic life.
Extra episode. Here we are.
Maybe it'll get done by itself. Who knows?
That's it. The capacity for, immaculate conception of work. I don't know. I thought about it. Lo and behold, the computer has given me an answer.
Yo, Munir.
Yo, Rob.
In fact, what? Sorry.
Oh, no, this is too good. Let's keep going.
Well, what'd you do this week?
This week was started with the Monday after the Super Bowl, and a lot of discussion about the advertising, because Super Bowls have a lot of advertising. We like to talk about that. It was interesting to see what people came up with, interesting to see people's reactions. And then I, have been preparing for a trip that we have next week. We're going to the University of Miami to speak.
I'm not framing you in a shot. I'm giving you the you.
The U. Okay, the U. I did not know that this was a U. I thought this was a field goal.
Yes, in the cafeteria. When we would flick the...
Yeah, you'd flick a piece of paper.
Yeah, the football.
The things
sometimes
that we
a quarter, sometimes a quarter. You'd spin a quarter.
The things that we had to do as young people without phones was we had to be creative. We had to come up with things to occupy our time. And one of the things we did was we folded up a piece of paper into a triangle, and we would, have a holder, which was ourselves, and then flick the thing, and it would have to go through the uprights. And we entertained ourselves for hours on end by who could put the piece of paper through the uprights.
Until somebody got hit in the face, which almost happened on every attempt.
Oh, okay. So you had aggressive. I don't remember it ever being a problem if somebody got hit in the face. It was a piece of paper.
Yeah, maybe. The point.
Yeah. You're going to lose an eye. Mm. Yeah, the other thing...
It wasn't fun if that wasn't a risk, right?
With the quarter or a nickel, because who had a quarter? I mean, we would spin them, and then there would be you'd go heads or tails, and there'd be a gambling game on who would win based on whether you'd spin it and hit it down. Anyway, things to occupy our time, things that required creativity because of a lack of a device in our pockets.
You sound like a boomer.
X. Definitely X.
Yeah, definitely not Z.
Definitely not Z. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Super Bowl and advertisements, I whether it's advertisements or otherwise, the halftime show, I have a hard time watching productions without thinking about all that goes into productions.
Yes.
And it's interesting because as we like to do on this show, which is celebrate creativity, our friend Hugh Scallon, shout out to Hugh, he shared a video from the Vayner creative team inside their conference room where they were watching the Super Bowl because they were the creative team behind the Raisin Bran ad with William Shatner, Will Shat.
All right.
And you could see them applauding and chanting, and it was such a great look behind the scenes. In fact, in the 2011 World Series, I pitched an all-access docuseries on us, the crew, because we weren't going to get any access from the teams.
I love it. I love it.
And it
Yeah.
was just that was 2011. It was right around the time where reality kind of established itself as
Yeah.
a genre that was ubiquitous across broadcasters.
Great.
Back when we grew up, it was reserved for MTV and maybe Fox and like outlier
The real
networks.
world. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
YouTube was a place to put video as well. To me, we had the cast and crew of characters to for sure pull off something compelling,
And
if not embarrassing.
again, a creative solution to a problem to come up with a show concept is to create something out of nothing. And then to actually, as you were talking about, produce something is to take that concept and make it a reality. And so many people come up with ideas, but don't have the capacity or don't have the stick to itiveness to take their creativity to the logical conclusion by being able to conceive of how to produce it and actually bring it into life.
I think this is so a few things similar to this show idea was when ESPN launched the 30 for 30.
Mm-hmm.
Manny Ramirez was a figure of interest to tell a story on. And again, and maybe this preceded the 2011 World Series idea, I suggested we do a documentary on the crew producing a documentary on Manny Ramirez. I maybe like this is Spinal Tap-ish, but I knew we wouldn't have access to Manny Ramirez.
Right.
So the show would be the producers trying to find Manny in some
Right.
regards. I mean, you know where he is. He's playing on the
Yeah.
field. He's just
Yeah.
not participating in your
Right.
documentary.
Right. Well, it's that again a fascinating solution to a problem by
Okay,
coming up.
so but this is the point I was getting to was that most shows don't get made because they require someone's approval or permission.
Yes.
And so if you can pull something off without approval or permission,
Yeah.
you probably have a better show
Yeah.
than someone granting you permission.
Well, and paradoxically, the idea goes by doing and creating, you actually bring attention to yourself such that somebody then gives you the permission or the approval to continue. The hard part has been in the past that had required enough capital that it was hard.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Producing things on spec to have them sit on a shelf with no distribution
if you
was,
were buying reels of film and
yeah,
actual lighting rigs. But, to your point, though, there are people that did it. Kevin Smith, Clerks,
totally.
the story, I don't know whether it's true or not, but, they said they got like 150 grand in credit cards because they're like, oh, they'll give us money. They just kept signing up for them. But talk about betting on yourself.
Well, what's interesting, going back to the Raisin Bran commercial, is that William Shatner is 94 years old. And this came about. I wasn't really thinking about it when he was on the commercial because he's done the Priceline ads.
Yeah,
He's been in the public eye.
yeah,
But it got to the point where I was like, wait a minute. How old is William Shatner?
yeah.
94.
I, I would never. I mean, I guess intellectually I could have figured that out, but I would never have guessed that.
Right.
Never have guessed that. And he's been able to talk about creative. He's been able to recreate and keep himself relevant through, courses of his career.
For sure. For sure. Wow. Quite remarkable.
Yeah. And looks good.
And looks good. That's it. So when you think about complexity of production, you can't not think about the halftime show.
Yeah. Big. And they have to get that thing up and running, and they got only so much time.
So another deep dive was reading about the production designers,
Okay.
which are Bruce and Shelly Rodgers,
So it's like people?
people, husband and wife duo, who have been doing this since 2007, the halftime show since 2007,
Wow.
which was Prince.
Yeah. In
Purple Rain in the Rain
in Miami.
in Miami. And thankfully, there's documentation on this brilliant duo. And they thought the Prince halftime show was going to be their first and their last.
Because of the rain.
Because, yeah,
And people don't, I mean, acts don't like to play in the rain because acts are playing electric instruments.
that's what makes Prince Prince, too, right? I
Oh my
mean,
God.
a lot of things have to happen in order for this to be pulled off. There was a giant silk that they were worried was going to get washed and blown away, and all kinds of things that, as you can imagine, when you're doing something live, no matter how many times you've rehearsed it, when
Right.
people and props are involved, anything can happen.
Yeah. And they have to get that stuff
So
up.
part of the story for this halftime show was that if you notice, like the sugar canes fields that they created were people
Oh.
because they had to limit the number of carts that could be on the field.
Oh.
And so
Okay.
when you're
Because it tears up the
designing,
field.
right, right. And there's a limit. There's a stated limit of how many carts you're allowed to have on the field. So when we talk about constraints and being creative within a
Yeah.
box and within guidelines,
Yeah.
there are built-in constraints to performing at halftime. One is time,
Yeah.
two is equipment, three is
Right.
people, four is, oh, by the way, the artist.
Right. And then
Fascinating.
how are you going to broadcast so the actual capturing of the art and the artist as well? Like, you have to think about, is it for the stadium and the 85,000 people that are at the stadium, or is it for the 35 million people watching on TV? And how do you cover it as well if you're going to put it on TV? As there was a lot of movement, and so you had to choreograph the movement.
Well, so, little humble brag. I was at Dr. Dre's performance in LA at the Super Bowl where he had Snoop and Eminem and
Yeah.
K Dot. And the audio in house was almost all bass. It was very clearly produced for broadcast. And I wasn't at the Super Bowl in San Francisco, so I don't know how it sounded in the stadium. But
Right.
on TV, it was awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So there are concessions likely that need to be made in order to accomplish one or the other.
Which is part of the brief as well, right? It's
That's
like,
right.
which one am I doing it for? Am I doing it for the television audience or am I doing it for in stadium? Because by the way, if I do it for one, I might have to shortchange the other.
That's right. That's right.
And
And I
it's
love the
always hard.
origin. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I love the origin story of how we got here, how we got to Bad Bunny, how we got to Kendrick Lamar, how we got to Prince.
Tell me.
In Living Color, and
Oh
this has
yeah.
been shared on my Instagrams, and I've seen it before. It's a known story because it's now 30 plus years old. But In Living Color, in a way to grab audience from the Super Bowl on their Sunday night time slot, did a live show during halftime of the Super Bowl. And they had a countdown clock. Their premise was our show is more popular and better than your halftime show.
Yeah.
Because at that point it was marching bands and a special guest sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Keenan Ivory Wayans and the family got together and they built this beautiful live show that absolutely crushed the halftime show, pulled audience over to Fox to watch In Living Color. And that was the last time they didn't have like a headliner. And Michael Jackson was the first performer in the revamped halftime show.
Can you imagine the guts you have to say, I'm going to go against the television program that has half of America watching it, and
Right.
and and I'm going to bet on myself that I could do something that brings, and great. I don't have to bring everybody. If I get 10% of that audience, that's still like 5 million people or whatever it is. Like I'm in. But you still have to convince the people around you. You have to, because when the Super Bowl's on, everybody else's ratings go to zero. Right. Nowadays you got streaming and everything else. It saves it a little bit, but then like that's it. Like you want to watch the Super Bowl, you got to watch it live. Like recording and streaming, not so much. So then to have the guts to be like, we're going to put our money on ourselves, or we're going to create something entirely new. Like nobody's done this before. I'm gonna bet that I know your audience better than you know your audience, and I'm gonna take them, and they're gonna come with me, and then they're right. Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, the production got to me through Instagram as well. Ebro, who is kind of the voice of Apple Music, he does a podcast for Apple Music. He's got a morning show in New York. He's on Instagram and a notable public figure and music head, and that's what he does. He's talent. He's also the narration under Apple Music's halftime show. You hear his voice. He
Okay.
had shared a Wired article about Bruce and Shelly Rodgers, and that's how that appeared to me. And it is worth a deep dive. I'll just say that
I
it
mean,
is definitely worth a deep dive. So
amazing.
yeah, that got me thinking about how people get their start.
Yes.
That's part of the origin story. I think what we've done for our show and not just celebrating creativity, but also wanting to understand the origins of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
That can mean anything. That can be maybe the origins of a medium or the origins of a person or the origins of an idea. Just like we talked about, the halftime show is the origin of creativity. A foundational book in my life as it pertains to creativity is actually Carol Dweck's mindset.
I love Carol Dweck. I have seen her speak on a couple of occasions, and she's amazing. She's got a great story. Her talk was pretty tight. It was fairly similar. I saw her a couple of times in close proximity from a time perspective, but the capacity to have growth mindset and to create is something very, very interesting. But tell me what you found about growth mindset or about Carol Dweck.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the key unlocks for me was thinking that I couldn't draw. And this is one of the anecdotes in the book as well, and the
I
research.
forgot that. Okay.
So, the idea is that I can't draw is a closed mindset or fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And maybe I haven't learned to draw yet would be a growth mindset,
Right.
suggesting that you can learn.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to read you something.
I would I would love to hear it.
This is from Mindset. Okay. So she's referencing a person here. Edwards agrees that most people view drawing as a magical ability that only a select few possess and that only a select few will ever possess. But this is because people don't understand all the components, the learnable components of drawing. Actually, she informs us, they're not drawing skills at all, but seeing skills. They're the ability to perceive edges, spaces, relationships, lights and shadows, and the whole. Drawing requires us to learn each component skill and then combine them into one process. Some people simply pick up these skills in the natural course of their lives, whereas others have to work to learn them and put them together. Just because some people can do something with little or no training, it doesn't mean that others can't do it, and sometimes do it even better with training.
Amazing. Right? Yeah. Practice. Talking about practice. Like natural skill. You see this in athletics, these hugely naturally skilled athletes who all of a sudden flame out and you're wondering why. And then you see these people that are, overnight sensations 10 years in the making because they're just grinding. But so Carol Dweck, one of her experiments that she talks about is like they give these like 5-year-olds these difficult problems. And one of the things that was an unlock, I believe, for her in understanding like this growth mindset was that some of the younger kids, when they got a really difficult problem, they would be like, "Oh my goodness, this is great! I love a challenge." And it's the capacity to take something difficult and instead of going, "I hate this, I quit," it's, "Oh, it's a challenge. It's exciting. It's interesting. Something new is going to happen. Something's going to come out of this." And I have been noticing, I want to say for like the last few weeks, 3 weeks, maybe since the turn of the year, conversations surrounding the importance of struggle. And um, it was in reference to a few different things as well, which was why it was notable to me. So, one was the importance of struggle in education. And so, we were just having a conversation with a professor who talked about, kids these days can get from point A to point B by asking the robot, or that the way that we teach is just to get people through as opposed to embracing the struggle in between. And the conversation was that in the struggle in between is where the learning happens. And then similarly, you and I had a conversation about sports and the importance of the struggle and the fact that when you are a young person and you don't know how to do something, heck, if you're an old person and you're having trouble or learning something new, it's difficult to embrace the unknown or the not being able to, and being comfortable enough with that to get through it to the point of mastery, because it does take practice and repetition, as does creativity.
You sent me a video, and this might be for a separate conversation about parents requiring their children to participate in certain activities that require high levels of practice, like repetition.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Sean Stockman has a fantastic podcast called On That Note that I'm teasing here, but he was talking with the notable director of House Party and Boomerang, and he was talking about getting his reps in.
Oh, no way.
He was talking about getting his reps in. I was going to save this for another time. We'll give him his proper shout out. We'll give him his props in a future episode. But the question I have is whether practice should be mandated and enforced upon children in activities that they don't want to do, or if there should be broader, still structure. I'm not advocating for no structure, but broader guidelines to see how they behave within those broader guidelines.
I think that we've discussed the advantage of coaching in a way that makes the practice enjoyable. But I do think that the capacity to embrace the process, if you think about great sports teams or athletes or musicians, and the previous comment about natural talent versus, what do you do with it? Because natural talent plus the capacity to embrace practice equals,
Right.
but natural talent without practice is waste. I mean, some people can do it, but that's an edge case too. I mean,
Well, I think that's where that's why the artist way is so fascinating to me, and
a
creativity.
practice. It's a
Right. It
12
is a
step program.
for sure. It's a practice, and so that as a child was not something that I related to. By the way, I've talked about my defiance, and my thought was my English teachers in high school and middle school wanted us to follow very strict guidelines to deliver essays. I
Okay.
hated that. I pushed against it. I didn't want to be told what to do.
Sure.
I was a terrible student in English, and I hated English because of it.
But you were in
Now,
class.
I was in class and I had very strict teachers, and most of them I did not like because I was image. That's much more of a me problem, I think. But that's 6 years of learning that's out the window, garbage.
No, it's not. Au
Sure.
contraire.
Tell me.
Do you like to write now?
Not as much as I used to like to write.
Oh, but
I
but you
I write more now as a practice.
yes.
That's
So
it. That's the
so
sentence.
so you were provided with a structure, even if you hated it as a kid, and you did still go. Like you didn't quit. You went. You hated it, but you
Well,
went.
there was no choice to quit.
Some people, some people,
Yeah. Drop out?
they did. We
Yeah.
I had
It
a,
wasn't.
I don't know about you, in our high school, it was a tiny high school, but our dropout rate, if you think about it by the numbers, was 20%.
I wonder if that was where the national average was in the 80s, because that
I,
felt like a thing to do. Anyway, we're far afield from, well, maybe this is the line of mindset. It would be great to get a thinker on.
you're a thinker.
Well, not certified. Well, maybe certifiable, but not certified.
But so you're asking for permission to be a thinker, which is something that I could bestow upon you by giving you a degree.
Thank
But
you.
you're
We've done 22
you're
of these. I don't think I have a problem pontificating.
the advantage of creativity within a structure and your rebellion against the structure is still creativity. And the process of giving you rules in which you could rebel against, and you going to a classroom, whether you hated it or not, to then go rebel against the rules is still like a process of creativity. And I think has um, presented a worldview that's very interesting because you still will bring to this group, this room, our audience, things that you read. And you are able
Much
to
more now than I
also,
did as a kid, too.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter that, again, like the thing that was over our auditorium was knowledge planted in youth giveth shade in old age.
Wow, you
And
remember.
oh,
Tuckahoe! Shout to
every
Tuckahoe High School. What?
everything, like you'd go to assembly, and that was, I would read that. We'd have a lot of assemblies. I was in there. I was in drama. I was in there a lot.
Yeah.
And again, it made an impression on me. That's why they put those things on the walls in schools.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's a capacity for us to take even the things that are difficult or are struggles and utilize them as a positive in a growth mindset capacity. I think that's what you're describing. Even if you don't internalize that, I'll externalize it to you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what resonated with me about the artist's way, since we always talk about it, was that she's really insistent that the routine is what will make you a better artist. And I was someone who always thought you had to be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having the conversation about that being gendered approach to
Oh,
creativity as well, because men were afforded the time to be struck by inspiration.
oh,
It's
interesting.
again, like it's a separate conversation, but it's really interesting to be cognizant of and aware of. And are women artists more process oriented than their
Hmm.
male counterparts?
Okay, I will investigate. I
So,
think that there are folks that are artists who talk about having the structure of time to create. And writers, I've heard about writers that they'll sit, they have a set time where they go sit at their typewriter or their computer. And if they type nothing for the set time, they type nothing, but they sit at the desk because that's when it happens. Or it doesn't, but they are there, right? They are there for it not
right.
to happen, or they are there for it to happen. And with the practice and structure, something happens. And even if they throw it out, because I've heard that too, like, well, I sat for an hour and I typed stuff that I threw out. But that's part of the creative process as well, is like, and there, this was seems to have been related to this struggle piece. Like the process of trying is also, and we've talked about this before too, you have to try. And by trying, some things will not work, and that is okay.
Sometimes that message needs to come from somebody other than you. I mean, the parent. I mean,
You? Yes.
Munir, I'm glad that we were able to talk about Carol Dweck and mindset because it reminds me of creativity as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
It She gives us permission to be learners
Mm-hmm.
and that we really can do anything we put our mind to, which was something mom shared with me all the time. And I don't know if that was a message that you received as well, but certainly that was one I received. And it made me feel good, but reading Carol Dweck made me believe it.
Yeah. See, it couldn't come from a parent.
Sometimes the message has to come from someone else.
Yeah.
So I love that, and I love the origin story of Bruce and Shelly Rodgers. In fact, I'm going to dive deeper into that story, and
Okay.
I'd love to talk
Yeah.
about live production and
Yeah.
live streaming as well as
Yeah.
distribution and form of creativity. So these are exciting things. And then finally, what we like to do each week is talk about music that we're listening
I love to talk about music that I'm listening to.
to. Well, I have three songs. We're going to think that's a good format for us. Three
Okay.
songs to talk
Yeah.
about that we're listening to. And because of inspiration from Bad Bunny this week, I've actually been listening to Alejandro Sanz.
I like
And
Alejandro Sanz.
he is from Spain.
I did not know that.
And when I visited Spain last year, I would tell people I liked Alejandro Sanz. They kind of looked at me funny. He's a megastar. He's not a fringe artist. Everybody knows him. And I think that's part of the reason why they're looking at this guy and saying, yeah, that's the type of music you like. It's very
Oh, okay.
romantic
All
and
right.
maybe over the top or grandiose. I
Yeah.
find it
Okay.
very
Like
compelling.
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin,
But yeah,
a
well,
crooner.
the music I was introduced to was during his Miami sound, is how it's
Okay.
described in his documentary. He's got a pretty good
Okay.
documentary out there. But 2003's album No Es Lo Mismo, and
I
the
like
song
that
is
song.
No Es Lo Mismo, and it's a great song, and it felt appropriate to be listening to this week. And we're going to Miami. So the tie-in, which is where I first started listening to it and wearing out Alejandro Sanz, was in Miami after that album came out, which won the Latin Grammy for Album of the Year. Thank you very much. 20 plus years ago. So, song number one, No Es Lo Mismo. Song number two that I've been listening to, this is where I mentioned Sean Stockman, and on that note, podcast. I don't know how many episodes he does, but I feel like there's new content from new people in my feed all the time. He
Okay.
recently had Sheila E on from Oakland, California, and we talked about Prince and we talked about Michael Jackson. Well, did you know that Sheila E is responsible for the percussion on Don't Stop Till You Get Enough?
No.
And that tink, 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 tink in tune with the song was her filling up water bottles and tuning them to the song and hitting them with her triangle stick.
No way.
And she didn't get credited on the record.
What? Wait, what?
So she shares this story that Quincy Jones calls her up and says, I need you on Michael's new album, Thriller. Bring your percussion. She's like, I got 20 cases. I'll bring it all. She brings it all, ends up filling up glass bottles with water and tuning them to the track to playing that phenomenal open. And she said Michael Jackson calls her up. He's doing a record release in Berkeley. And so she's like, oh, I'll swing by. I'll buy the album. She's she's checking the album credits and her name's not on there.
Wow.
She said she gets royalties, but she's never been credited on the record.
Well, we talk about cash, credit, or connections.
It's true.
So maybe the cash was enough then.
Maybe two out of three. Maybe the connections as well. The cash and the connections. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you were on Thriller? That's you? Okay.
Yeah. And you can't take it away from her even if she's not credited publicly.
Right.
She knows she did
Right.
it.
But that's not song number two. That's the lead into song number two. Sean Stockman has his acoustic guitar with him, and he starts playing a song I didn't know called Hold Me.
Okay.
And this is a Sheila E song, and she starts singing, and this is a beautiful song. It's like quintessential Quiet Storm, love song personified vibe with some dark undertones.
Oh, okay.
It's worth a listen. Hold Me, Sheila E. Wow. Shout out
Okay.
to Sean
I will
Stockman as well.
I will check it out.
And then song number 3, Bring on the Dancing Horses by Echo and the Bunnymen. This last weekend, I watched The Lost Boys with my 12-year-old.
Wait, was your 12-year-old?
She loves Scream. Stranger Things is not a problem. Like this, if you
Okay.
rewatch The Lost Boys, it's no different than Stranger Things.
It's been a while.
Maybe even less intense.
I mean, I love that movie at that time, but
Right. But Echo and the Bunnymen do the cover of The Doors' People Are Strange, so it's
yeah,
all over the soundtrack. And so it got me thinking about Echo and the Bunnymen and leading me to that track.
amazing.
So those are my 3.
Thank you. I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I have a different group of 3 for you. I have a similarity on the Latin uh, music. I th- thought about DTMF, Debí tirar más fotos, and Bad Bunny. And my daughter studies Spanish, knows all the words to Bad Bunny, and I have been in this creativity moment trying to pick up Spanish so that I can speak to her and help her study, but also just because I love languages and it's nice. So a lot of people were talking about how they couldn't understand the music, and while I'm not fluent, I could pick up words along the way, and I can actually read the lyrics and understand context. And then, the internet will help you with what you can't fill in the blank. But the song is really poignant. The lyrics are poignant. And recently we have lost people. We've spoken about this. And so it felt really connected to me. And I couldn't get it out of my head after the Super Bowl. I've been walking around that all week long thinking about that music. And then song number 2 is The Refugee by U2, 1983. And one of the lyrics in there speaks about her mama say one day she's going to live in America. And so you think about origin story of ourselves and the fact that our grandfather came over to the U.S. as essentially a refugee. We were already living here in permanent residence or citizens, but he had been in a war-torn country and therefore was a refugee into this great nation, America. And that vibe was happening around the same time that was happening to him. And so I've been thinking about that, maybe for obvious reasons, maybe for not, but nevertheless, that stuck out to me. And then another
And
one.
by the way, sorry, but when I hear refugee as well, I also think of the Fugees as a
Yeah, for
collective.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And yeah, and so number 3 for me is The Cult of Personality by Living Color,
Oh, how was that not on either of our top tens? That's an embarrassment.
1988. The song leads off with a quote or a recording of Malcolm X, and it ends with a recording of FDR. And the lyric that sticks out is I exploit you, still you love me. And then another one is Neon Lights, Nobel Prize. When a mirror speaks, the reflection lies. And, this is a powerful, powerful song. Take No Prisoners. And it speaks to a moment that perhaps we're in now as well.
Surely a band that Green Day was influenced by, one would think.
Indeed, absolutely.
Awesome. I love that segment, by the way. Top three, so maybe, yeah, that's a good one to end with, but wow, does it get me jazzed.
I love it.
Awesome.
Well, Rob, it's been a wonderful one. We'll see you soon. Rob, it's great to see you. I am. We never did our intros actually at all, did we?
No.
That was an oversight. Okay, we're going to loop this. This is going to get cut out.
Yeah.
Rob, welcome to Yo Munir, a show celebrating creativity. And on today's show, we're going to cover creative influences, origin stories, the Super Bowl halftime show, what we find with Mindset and Carol Dweck, and our top 3 songs of this week. I'm Munir Haddad, the co-founder and CEO of Kiosk, an advertising agency, and I love creativity and support stakeholder capitalism. Rob, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Munir. Yo, Munir. I'm Rob Haddad, a former producer and director who spent his career in sports, media, and technology. And I love talking about creativity.